Well, welcome to more of my office. It's not cropped in as tight as what my videos are, but this is part of the fun of going live. Got rid of those crosshairs. Well, what do you want to talk about tonight? Skynet took him. This is going on the living room TV, and he's gone again. Hopefully, I'm back. Can everyone see me now? What kind of wood is the desk? Um, I honestly don't know. It's some type of particle board. It's not a solid wood desk, but it's got a nice finish to it. Okay, great, great. I just wanted to make sure that you could see me because I saw a comment about not being able to see me. My favorite and least favorite colors. I have always been a big fan of dark blue, but I also like natural things. I still like physical notebooks. So this is my physical notebook, but I have a nice leather cover on it. Um, I like natural textures, so I do have things that are natural wood, natural leather, and things like that. I love these signs that Brian made for me, and so the desk itself's nothing special. It's not solid wood; it's some type of veneer. Not sure what they call that color. Well, I know that the signs back here that Brian made, I know that those are cherry. He did not stain them. He just cut them, put in epoxy, sanded them, and then he put a urethane finish over them. So that's cherry, but it's not been stained at all. What's being done in the legal framework regarding data collection and surveillance? Oh boy, where do I begin? Um, I have a video coming out very soon, as in like tomorrow or maybe Monday, and I will show you the thumbnail that I have going for it. I, I'm a little bit overwhelmed tonight. I really wasn't expecting anyone to show up, and all I can say is thank you for being here. I'm going to share my screen with you in a second, and I'm going to show you the thumbnail that I'm working on for my next video. I have multiple, I have 3 monitors here, and I'm looking at my camera, which has a teleprompter on it, but the teleprompter's turned off. This is a pure live event tonight and Monday. Um, but let me show you what I'm working on. This is my upcoming video, and I think a lot of you are gonna like it. Okay, share my screen. Okay, I may lose you for a second. If I do, I will be right back. Okay. Um, YouTube is telling me I'm live again, and I'm going to share my screen with you and show you what my next thumbnail's looking like. Okay, cool. It automatically put me in the lower right-hand corner, but this is the video that I am working on right now. Uh, Thank you. Thank you so much, for your first tip, to let you know we all appreciate and benefit from your content. Well, thank you very much. Um, I'm responding to that question earlier about, what's going on with surveillance, and there is a very common misconception. I've seen this comment in, a number of my videos, but I hear it all the time. People who say you have no expectation of privacy when you're in public. And the Supreme Court has ruled on this, and the Supreme Court says, yes, you do. And I will show you the exact quote. This is the first time I've ever given anyone a preview of an upcoming video, but this will be coming out tomorrow or Monday at the latest. This is an exact quote from a Supreme Court ruling. A person does not surrender all Fourth Amendment protection by venturing into the public sphere. And that is not my words. That is a majority opinion of the Supreme Court. These were the five justices that um, voted for that majority opinion. That was from the Carpenter case in 2018. You notice Chief Justice John Roberts is on the left on this slide, and he is the one who wrote the opinion, but it was a majority opinion. Unfortunately, I really wish that had been a 9-0 opinion. It was only a 5-4, yes, a 5-4 decision. And two of the justices that voted to protect the Fourth Amendment are no longer on the court, Justice Ginsburg and Justice Breyer. They have been replaced. We now have Justice Kavanaugh and Justice Amy Coney Barrett, and they are very, very likely, should another case similar to Carpenter make it to the Supreme Court, which I'm anticipating will happen. I think again, this is all live, so I have zero notes here. The case that Institute for Justice filed against the city of Norfolk, Virginia, over their use of flock safety cameras. I strongly believe that the Institute for Justice is likely to win in the Eastern District of Virginia. And I say that based on this court case that I'm going to be breaking down in my next video. I'm going to go through a number of excerpts from the Supreme Court opinion in the Carpenter case, but they make it very clear that you don't sacrifice all privacy when you step into the public sphere. So I believe that Institute for Justice is going to win. I also believe it's going to get appealed. In fact, I know it's going to get appealed because Institute for Justice will not accept a loss, and I'm sure flock safety is not going to accept a loss. So it will get appealed, and it will probably make its way to the Supreme Court. And the issue with the flock safety case is a very close parallel to the issues that were involved in the Carpenter case in 2018. And like I said, the Supreme Court, by a 5-4 decision, made the right decision, but two of the five members that voted to protect the Fourth Amendment are no longer there. If Justice Barrett and Justice Kavanaugh vote to overturn it, that's going to put us in a bad spot. I believe that Justice Ketanji Brown is probably going to vote with Kavanaugh. Excuse me, Justice Ketanji Brown will very likely vote with Justice Roberts, Justice Sotomayor, and Justice Kagan. That would make it a 5-4 decision against us. Here's the way I see it coming down. You're going to have Roberts, Ketanji Brown, Sotomayor, and Kagan, and they are going to be voting to protect the Fourth Amendment. You're going to have Justice Alito, Justice Thomas, Justice Kavanaugh, Justice Barrett probably voting to gut the Fourth Amendment just based on their previous votes on similar issues. And that leaves Justice Gorsuch. Justice Gorsuch voted against Carpenter, but he made it pretty clear in his opinion that he could have been persuaded had they used a better argument. In other words, he did not like the legal basis for which they were challenging. And so he voted against Carpenter, but he really strongly hinted, if you come back with a better argument, you could win me over. So I see it today, assuming that the Supreme Court looks the same when this case finally makes it there, I see it being a 4-4 decision with Justice Gorsuch being the swing vote. Now, there is something going on right now, and I do my best to keep politics out of this channel. Um, but one of the things that I know is going on right now, President Trump has announced that he is undoing everything that President Biden did with the auto pen. And Justice Ketanji Brown, to the best of my knowledge, the first time this has ever happened, her appointment was by auto pen. And so I don't know that President Trump is going to be successful in getting her removed from the court. I have a strong feeling that the Supreme Court is going to say, but out. Separation of powers, and once the president nominates someone, I don't think a future president can go in and remove them. So I really do look for the entire Supreme Court to kind of rally together and say, hands off. But stranger things have happened. So we'll just have to see how that works out. Didn't mean to ignore everyone. I'm seeing a lot of comments coming by over here. I filed the FOIA for flock safety in my county and state, where the sheriff called me, trying to tell me they don't use license plate readers. Oh, okay. Well, thank you for reaching out to your sheriff's department about that. Um, they're trying to tell me they don't use license plate readers in my county, but the state replied and said it's going to take until. Okay, not quite sure what you meant on that one. The sheriff is saying they don't use it in your county, but the state is saying that they do use it in your county, or they use it in different counties. I'm not sure what you meant there. Roberts would have to choose to place it on the docket, though. True. It wouldn't necessarily be Roberts. There is a process where each of the 9 justices have a portion of the country, and when somebody tries to appeal to the Supreme Court, if it's an emergency, there is one justice who can say they're kind of the gatekeeper. If it's an emergency, the gatekeeper can say, no, this does not go to the full court, or they can say, yes, we will take this to the court. And we've seen that happen a couple of times. However, out of all of the cases that get appealed to the Supreme Court, only a small minority of the cases are actually heard. And if you're going through the normal channel rather than the emergency expedited channel, then the entire Supreme Court will meet and they will have they will have discussions. And at that point, I can't remember what the magic number is to get a hearing, but justices will take a vote on whether they want to hear a case or not. So it's not just Justice Roberts. Oh, the sheriff tried telling you he didn't know what flock safety was? Yeah, I'm very, very skeptical of that. The real key is how to educate the public on what's going on and stop letting devious groups get in control. Okay, because everyone joined me here tonight, I'm going to let you in on something that I've been working on. I I want to be as active as I can. I also want to stay completely legal and peaceful. I do not condone people going out and doing bad things to flock cameras as much as I dislike them. Do not get yourself in legal trouble. So, with that said, what can we do to kind of raise people's awareness. I had this conversation with someone. If you've been watching my channel for a while, you know that I spoke in Ackworth, Georgia, a couple of weeks ago at the Great Create Freedom Festival. Before I went and spoke, I was out on the back deck of the venue where I was going to be speaking and having a great one-on-one conversation with somebody who had come out to meet me. And when I mentioned flock cameras, I was so surprised. He said, "I've heard of those, but I've never seen one." And I kind of chuckled. I said, "Well, pay attention when you're leaving here because a half mile down the road, there's only one road to get to where the venue was." I said, "About a half mile down this road, you're going to see a solar panel sitting on top of a pole." And I described it, and he goes, "Oh, I saw that coming in. I didn't know what it was." Yeah, that was a flock camera. So the idea is these cameras are everywhere, but a lot of people don't know what they are. And therefore, if you don't know what they are, they're not necessarily alarming. So how do we get people to pay more attention? How many of you remember a game that you may have played as a kid when I don't know how old everyone is here. I'm 59. But when I was a kid, long before we had iPads and cell phones, we would go on family vacation. And I remember playing a game called Travel Bingo. And in Travel Bingo, it was a bingo sheet. And you were looking for a cow, you're looking for a mail truck, a dump truck, things that you would see when you're out on the road, and you would mark them and play against your siblings to try and get to bingo. That game was called Travel Bingo. I am making a new version of that game called Surveillance Bingo, and I am almost done with it. It's gonna have 25 squares, and the 25 squares are 25 different forms of surveillance technology, and the whole purpose of this, it's a fun way to get people thinking about just how much surveillance technology is out there. Flock drones, flock cameras, um, has anyone ever heard of what's called a crotch camera? Okay, got several people that have not heard of them. The crotch camera, that is the nickname. The official name is something like a what do they call them? The distracted driver camera, I think, is the official term for it. But what the reason that so many people call them a crotch camera, these cameras are mounted on a pole and they're looking straight down. And as you drive by, it's looking through the windshield and it's looking at your lap. And what they're looking for is, do you have a cell phone on your thigh? Because if you got a cell phone up like this, police can see you holding a cell phone up. So people will put a phone on their thigh. Well, this crotch camera looks at your lap as you drive under the camera. And then AI looks for any black rectangle on your lap, and if it sees a black rectangle, then it notifies the police to pull you over. Well, you can imagine women wearing a short skirt might not really like a camera staring at their lap as they're driving. And so that's another thing that's going on my surveillance bingo is the crotch cameras. They've been used in the UK for a while. They are starting to show up in the United States. I can show you articles of where they have already been used in the US, but they're relatively new and a lot of people have not heard of them yet. Oh, very nice to see you too. Um, Dark Sky, J Dark Sky, Mr. Bob. Wow, we're up to 149 people already. This is awesome. So anyway, that's one thing that I'm working on is the surveillance bingo. I've got another thing that I really have to keep under wraps until it's time to roll it out, but it's going to be even more fun, and I hope make even bigger ripples than what the surveillance bingo would be. Oh, you are very welcome. Don't forget to hit the thumbs up. I appreciate that. Good evening. What have you seen or heard with regard to where we are going in the realm of AI, personal and digital security? Well, today is November 29th. For another 15 minutes on the Eastern time zone. We have, I think, one more day left before the next phase of Skynet kicks in. Um, Flock Safety entered into a partnership with Ring, which is owned by Amazon, and it's going to start integrating facial recognition from all Ring doorbells, and Flock's going to start tying that together. So if they see that a car that they are tracking with license plate readers go into a certain neighborhood, then what Flock would be able to do is access Ring doorbells in that neighborhood where the car went and start looking for who got out of that car, what direction did they walk. It's the next level of surveillance, integrating doorbells with the license plates so that they can track you at a more granular level. And not something I'm a fan of, but again, that's why this video is so important. When people say you have no expectation of privacy when you leave your house, if you go back to the 1960s, 1970s, police did not have the resources to say, I'm going to put an officer on following you 24/7. And this is really what the Supreme Court was saying in the Carpenter case. There was a natural limit to surveillance before everything got automated. If the police thought someone was guilty, they could assign a police officer to sit outside their house in a car and watch them and follow them wherever they went. That's been a technique in police work for decades. But the natural limitation on that was it is so resource intensive. If you're going to pay an officer to sit outside someone's house, how many dollars a year are we talking about? Well, how many officers do we need? Assuming they work a 3 hour or an 8 hour shift, that means I'm paying three officers for an 8 hour shift, and they're not going to work 7 days a week. So I need 4 or 5 officers to watch someone 24/7. And those officers need vehicles. And when you do the math, you're talking like a $500,000 a year if you want to monitor someone 24/7. Because it was so expensive, because it was so resource intensive, yes, they could follow you, but they had to be really, really certain that you were guilty before they would dedicate anywhere near that type of resources. And this is what Justice Roberts said in the Carpenter case. Now it is so cheap to follow someone because we have these flock cameras everywhere. That has removed one of the disincentives for surveilling everyone. It's cheap, so we can surveil everyone. The other thing that these five justices that are on the screen right now, the other thing that they said in the majority opinion today, if the police have probable cause and they think you are guilty of something, they can go to a judge and they can get a warrant to monitor you from this point forward. Okay, that again, that's the way it's been since the Constitution was written. If they get a warrant, they can monitor you from that point forward. But what we're seeing now with technology is if I get a warrant, or in fact, right now I don't even need a warrant, I can monitor you retroactively. I can reconstruct everywhere that you have been in the past. And that's where these justices are saying, no, that's not the way it's supposed to be. So again, tomorrow or Monday, you'll see this video coming out for me that looks like this, and I'll go over a lot more detail from that Carpenter case. Remember, your driving patterns matter. Yep, full screen. Um, oh, You mean put this in full screen? Uh-oh, now I don't see myself. Um, I'm gonna take that out full screen. Oh, yes. In that video, I talk about several companies. We're all familiar with Flock, or most of us are familiar with Flock, but there's Vigilant. Vigilant is owned by Motorola. There's Clearview. There's NOLA. NOLA is facial recognition. Um, the New Orleans police got in a little bit of trouble. The city council in New Orleans passed a resolution limiting how the police use facial recognition. They did a couple of things. They um, wanted to restrict how facial recognition was being used by law enforcement in New Orleans, and so city council passes the ordinance, and it requires that a report be generated quarterly to the city council detailing how many times did you use facial recognition in the last quarter. And it looks like the police quit using facial recognition because for about 2 years, their quarterly reports were showing that they weren't using facial recognition. And then somebody discovered, that's not quite true. They're not using the few facial recognition cameras that the city purchased, they're using a private network, and because it's a private network, they weren't reporting to the city council, even though the city council did not say, "We only wanna know when you're using our cameras." And so, anyway, there is a whole network, just like Flock has a whole network of license plate readers. In New Orleans, there was a, whole network of about 200 facial recognition cameras throughout the city, and that is growing, it's spreading across the country, and now Flock partnering with Amazon, we're getting facial recognition cameras nationwide. We're just a little jumpy. I understand. It's a lot of information to process, and every now and then I get to thinking, "What does this sound like to somebody that's relatively new?" Because I've been watching this for years, and I never wanna talk down to anyone. I never want to, make anyone feel like they're not paying attention because they're not aware of something, because there's so many things to be aware of. But, I do my best just to inform people. I try my best to not overhype it and say, the world is ending because of this, but these are some significant threats, and I try my best to describe them in a calm and rational way. Why do I think law enforcement lies so often? It's a really good question. I don't know how prevalent it is. What I do know is they get caught much more often. So are they lying more, or are they just getting caught more often? I don't know. And in terms of how many police officers are there versus how many are causing the problems, again, I don't know. Um, One of my favorite channels on YouTube is the Civil Rights Lawyer. He does a fantastic job doing breakdowns of body cam footage, very often from very questionable traffic stops. Very often it's officers using extremely poor judgment and escalating situations that did not need to be escalated. And you can go out to the civil rights lawyer's website and find so many videos. But when you compare that to the number of police officers in the United States, it's a fraction of a percent. And so I truly don't know, is this a matter of a half a percent of officers giving police a bad name, or is it 10% or 20%? I don't know. But it's more than it should be. I know that for sure. Infrared goes through tint just like regular sunglasses. I have my Zenni optical glasses sitting over here, and I have tested those, and the Zenni glasses work very, very well. I saw a YouTube video that said if you get a new auto tag, flock cameras will be disrupted because of the pattern. Oh, okay. I may have seen that same video, or there may be multiple videos on this. Here in Indiana, and I'm assuming that many states are like this, you only get a new license plate once every 3 years. And for the years that you don't get a new license plate, you just get a little sticker to put on your existing license plate. Someone suggested that rather than getting that sticker, go ahead and get a new license plate. And doing so, it's not foolproof by any means, but it will help break up patterns because your old license plate used to go somewhere. Now you have a new license plate. If you get on the radar of law enforcement, they can always go back and say, what was your license plate last year or the year before? But it is a little extra work for them to piece that together. In the near future, AI might make that seamless so that it's kind of like when a woman gets married and changes her last name. It's two different names, and a human might miss that. But if a computer knows Mrs. Jones became Mrs. Smith, then that computer could say these two things are equal, and um, it probably helps with anonymity a little bit. And at this point, every little bit does help. But I think it's a small step in the right direction. I would say that it's probably worth doing, but it's far from a robust solution. Yes, John Bryant. I could not think of his name, but yes, the civil rights lawyer. He has some great content. Would I ever do a collab with Louis Rossman, Steve Lato, or Matt Kim? Okay, I'm not familiar with Matt Kim, but I am certainly open to doing collaborations. About 2 weeks ago, I emailed Louis Rossman and Steve Lato, but I never heard back from them. And that, not trying to throw them under the bus here. I know that they probably get 10 times as much email as I get, and I struggle keeping up with my email. But I have reached out to Louis and to Steve. I have not heard back from them. I reached out to Naomi Brockwell, and I did hear back from her. I responded to her, and then I haven't heard back from her a second time. So that's kind of where those things stand. Civil rights lawyer is great, as well as the Institute for Justice. I have an Institute for Justice shirt. I may wear that on Monday night. Not sure yet, but yeah, I love Institute for Justice. Any comments on things like the Progressive Snapshot or their app, which monitors driving and mobile phone activity? I feel like it can definitely be manipulated. Okay, great question. And here's how technology progresses. And there's a big takeaway from this. In the beginning, there were car companies that were making these little plug-in devices that would plug into your OBD, onboard diagnostic port, which is a connector about yay big under your dashboard. And the companies were making these available, plug it in, let it collect data for a couple of weeks. And I believe the earliest versions, you had to plug it in, leave it for a couple of weeks, unplug it, mail it back to them, and they would download it. Now they have chips in it where they can see it in real time. But it started as an incentive. You don't have to do this, but if you do this, we may give you a discount if you can demonstrate that you're a good driver. And some people did it, some people didn't. I am a good driver. I I feel like I'm jinxing myself to even say this, but I have never had a speeding ticket in my life, and I'm 59 years old. I've had one warning ticket back when I was a teenager. But I'm a good driver, but I do not want to plug one of those devices into my car. So it started as voluntary, and then not enough people were volunteering. So insurance companies went out to places like General Motors and Ford and others, and hey, here's some cash. We would like the driving habits of every car that you sell. And that's when GM started collecting extremely detailed data about driving habits and sharing it with insurance companies. There is a massive lawsuit in the state of Texas. Attorney General Ken Paxton filed a lawsuit against General Motors for sharing all of this driver information. And what he asked for in the lawsuit was not to exceed $10,000 per incident or per victim. And when you look at how many people in Texas drive a General Motors vehicle, if you multiply that by $10,000 a piece, works out to about a $19 billion fine, which is roughly what GM made in 2019. So that would be an absolutely crippling fine on GM if they win the case and get the maximum award. But anyway, I just bring that up because I'm not even sure today if insurance companies are still offering discounts for using those devices. I know that they were popular for a while, but because insurance companies have access to all of your driving data through the manufacturer, there is less need for them to incentivize you by putting one of these things in your car because they're already getting the data anyway. My local city hall meetings have been dealing with flock issues. Get involved and show up. Absolutely. I can't stress that enough. Even if you don't have flock cameras yet, you need to be showing up and letting them know you don't want them. Um, Basically, as Barney Fife used to say, nip it in the bud. Um, don't wait for them to come. Don't wait for them to be debating a contract. Let them know well in advance you do not want these. If I put one of those in my car, it would burst into flames. Google says illegal to cover in Idaho, checking other state now. Are you talking about covering your license plate in some way? I found out Toyota was collecting my driving records and selling it to insurance. Yep, a lot of companies are doing that. Had to do this a lot of digging to turn it off. No idea if they really stopped it. There is a company, and I'm going to pull up their website. I made a video about this quite a while back. Privacyforcars.com. Site not available. Oh, HTTPS. They are not an HTTPS. They're only an HTTP. Okay. This is the organization I was looking for. I learned about Privacy for Cars a couple of years ago when I was speaking at the Electronic Frontier Forum in Atlanta. Privacy for Cars. Now, trust me, I know the expression. If you're not paying for it, you're the product. In this particular case, though, I have spoken with one of the VPs at Privacy for Cars, and I'm probably going to do an interview with the CEO sometime in the near future. They do make money, but they offer a free service to drivers. They make their money off of dealerships. And here's how the company works. Imagine you are a car dealer in the state of Illinois, and I'm just picking on Illinois because I know their law. I don't know the law in all 50 states. But by law in Illinois, if you are a car dealer and you take a car in on trade, you not only have to purge all of the data from the car that you bought, make sure that the GPS forgets all of the locations that have been logged. You not only have to purge all that data, but you have to certify that it has been purged. Privacy for Cars sells a service to dealerships where they purge and certify that it's been purged to help the dealership be compliant with state law. I I don't know how many states have something like that. I think most of them do. But anyway, Privacy for Cars makes their money off of the dealerships because they have the tools and things. They make this service available to drivers free of charge. And what you can do, go on to privacyforcars.com. You have to enter your vehicle identification number, and I know some people are concerned about that. I've done it myself. I have met these people. I trust them. But if you enter your vehicle identification number, it will look up, here's the make, model, and options on your car. This is the infotainment system your car was built with. And then it will give you, here is the privacy policy for everything in your car. And what shocked me, because I drive a 2017, what shocked me was the number of privacy policies in your car, because there are multiple ones. For my car, there's like 4 of them. And for even newer cars, you might be looking at 8 or 10 privacy policies for one vehicle for different aspects of that vehicle. So they will give you links. You can go click and download all of the privacy policies for your Sirius XM. If you have that, here's the privacy policy for OnStar. Here's the privacy policy for blah blah blah. It then gives your car a rating to tell you, here's what your car is collecting about you. My car is referred to as a hard drive on wheels, meaning my car collects all types of information about me, but it lacks the ability to communicate it. If I were to ever take my car to the dealership, they would plug in an ODB and they would get all of my data. I never take my car to the dealership. If my car needs service, it goes to a small family-owned shop here in the city where I live. I know the people that run the place, they are not doing anything with my data. But I intentionally avoid taking my car to the dealership because that hard drive on wheels is going to get uploaded if I take it to the dealership. Privacy for Cars also gives you step-by-step directions on how to go in and start wiping data, because that's their business model. They sell that service to dealerships, but they share the information with drivers who want to go in and wipe data themselves. So I just want to put a plug in for them. Good people, good organization, and very useful. Okay, I have ignored a bunch of comments coming through here. Okay, up to 177 people and 168 likes. So thank you. It's really out of control between driving, shopping, online drones. Absolutely. And it reminds me of what Larry Ellison said in that shareholders call that he was on in September 2024. Larry Ellison briefly became the richest man in the world in September of this year. He beat Elon Musk for a day or two. Elon quickly regained the title of richest man, but Ellison is very wealthy. He is the chairman of the board at Oracle, and he is what I call one of the architects of the surveillance state. Oracle has been a key player in software for decades, and as chairman of the board at Oracle, he has had a big hand in shaping a lot of computer systems. What he has done, what he said in his comments, was that you will be, or he said we will have supervision, because that's certainly what I ask for. I need somebody to watch me 24/7. Larry said we will have supervision. AI is going to be watching video streams, and he gave a long list: police body cams, dash cams, doorbell cams. He said all of these video streams are going to be coming in, and AI is going to be watching it. And with facial recognition, AI is going to know everything about everything we do. And according to Larry, This will ensure everyone's on their best behavior because you will know everything you do is being recorded. And my first question is, who died and left you, boss? I don't remember ever casting a vote for you, Larry. In fact, I won't go there. But he has decided for the good of humanity, kind of like Bill Gates, for the good of humanity, here's what I'm going to do to you. I mean, for you. But that's where I see all of this going. Um, there is a convergence going on. The CIA gave $2 million to Palantir the year after they got started. Peter Thiel gave $2 million to Flock Safety a year after they got going. These architects of the surveillance state know each other, they help each other, they integrate their data, and they are dead set on having a surveillance state where, quite literally, as Sergeant Milliman said out in Denver a couple of weeks ago, you can't get a breath of fresh air without somebody recording it. Can you give us some info about healthcare? Oh my. um, I have been sitting on a story. I'm trying to think how to describe this. I've been sitting on a story because of a potential conflict of interest. Um, I have a close relative who works for a hospital, and that hospital got in trouble. And I've been hesitant to draw a lot of attention to it because I don't want my relative getting um, in trouble because of my videos. So I won't name the relative, I won't name the hospital, but this has been in the newspaper, and that's why I may still make a video about it sometime. Here's what the hospital is accused of doing. There is a lawsuit that has been filed, and so it's public record. I'm not saying anything that's confidential or just rumor. This is what's in the lawsuit. The hospital has a patient portal, and the patient portal, if you see any doctor that's in that hospital's network, you have to log into the patient portal, and that's where you communicate with the doctor. You log into the portal. Here's your test results. If you had blood test, here's your lipid numbers. Whatever your medical condition, this is the official communication channel between you and your doctors. It's where they do the scheduling and everything else. And according to the lawsuit, there were Google and Meta pixels embedded in the portal. So Google and Meta were getting everyone's data through the portal. And that's what the hospital's been accused of. The lawsuit has been filed. The hospital denies that that happened, but, and this is what I always find suspicious, we did not do that. How dare you accuse us of doing that? We would never do that. But would you take some money to go away? To me, that's a giant red flag when you're trying to settle out of court on something of this matter. You have been accused of something extremely serious, and think about Bill Cosby, think about Michael Jackson. If you've been accused of something serious and you offer money to make the accusation go away, that makes you look 10 times guiltier than going to court and making your defense. And so, as many times as the hospital said we did not do that, the fact that you're offering money to get the suit dropped really undermines your claim of innocence. Will you talk about localized AI on phones and computers? I will. I'm not ready to talk about that one yet because I'm not fully up to speed on that, but that is a topic that I have on my list of videos to make in the future. Somebody recently asked me if I would make a video about AI in general and which ones are safer. Um, I don't know that any of them are what I would call safe. And this is a point I try and get across in my videos about VPNs and browsers and other things. Um, I'm not saying any of these are airtight, that any of these are 100% infallible. I don't think infallible exist, but there are some that are blatantly violating your privacy. There are some that appear to do their best to protect your privacy, but they might not be perfect. And those are the ones that I'm going to go for. And so my intent is trying to help people be more secure. But I've said in a video before, if your goal is to evade the NSA, you're watching the wrong channel because I have no idea how to do that. But if your goal is evading Lowe's and Home Depot and Kroger and Uber, yeah, I can give you some tips on that. And indirectly, if you start protecting yourself from little brothers, um, if Lowe's and Kroger and Uber have less information on you, they have less information to sell to the NSA because the NSA does buy data from private companies. So anyway, I will be making a video sometime in the near future, probably February timeframe, looking at AI and looking at which ones are most private. I know that Proton now has an AI. I have never used it yet, but I use Proton for mail and for some other things, and so I am going to be um, testing that out. Okay. Um, I just realized something. I don't know if I'm recording right now or not. I hope I'm recording because I'd love to be able to go back through all of the comments that I've missed tonight. Because there's been a ton of comments come through and I've only caught a fraction of them. HIPAA, anyone? Absolutely. If the hospital is guilty and the fact that they're offering money to make it go away certainly suggests to me that they are, um, that would be a huge issue. Um, I'll share this one other thing. The hospital that has been accused of doing this, and again, this is public record. I'm not sharing any inside information. This is public record. The hospital that has been accused of putting the Facebook and Google pixels on the patient portal, their CEO retired and their CIO was promoted to CEO. And he lasted a couple of months before he was let go and the old CEO was brought back. And that was around the time that this lawsuit was filed. So again, could be coincidence, but from a outward appearance standpoint, your CIO, because think about who would who would have to be involved in putting tracking pixels in the patient portal. That's something that could probably be done without the CEO's knowledge, but it would be hard to be done without the CIO's knowledge. Again, I'm not saying impossible. It could be a director or even a manager snuck it in without approval. But the fact that the CIO became CEO for a very short time before being let go and bringing the old CEO back doesn't look good. Okay. Live stream and chat should be archived on the channel once the stream is over. Okay, great. Because I did not remember hitting any button that said record, but I just wasn't sure if that was automatically recorded or not. Well, we've been going here for a little over an hour, so I'm gonna go ahead and wrap things up. I've got 161 of you here with me right now, so I so appreciate you taking, some time out of your evening to spend time with me, and, hope that all of you come back for office hours on Monday night at 7 PM Eastern. But, I'm gonna go ahead and wrap it up here. Thank you so much for joining me tonight as I was testing this out, and I really look forward to seeing everybody on Monday. Take care, everyone. Very glad you're wading into live streaming. Me too. I enjoy this. Thanks, everyone. Thank you, Mr. Bob.